Well, weather-wise, guys, we're back. A little different angle this week, though. Our industry is very wide. Obviously, we deal in all things, weather, but geosciences, we're the weather-wise guys, occasionally wise geoscience guys, but we could not have this business without women either. And their take, their perspective, their experience is a lot different. So, meteorologist Lauren Linahan joins us to talk all about that and give a little background on what she's done. Hello, Lauren.
Yeah. Hello, guys. It is so good to be here. And so, just a little background on me, if you want me to give it. I have been in the broadcast industry for over 10 years. I currently am not working in the broadcast industry. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do next. That ever existential question. I'm kind of wondering, I'm like, is this a midlife crisis? Am I almost at midlife? Is that where we are? I'm in my maybe late 30s now. So we'll see. But I still love weather communication, weather education. My first TV station that I worked at was actually with Evan, my dear Evan. It was in WTVY and Dothan, Alabama. And then after that, I worked at WTVM in Columbus, Georgia. And then for the past 4 years, I've worked at WBRC 6 News here in Birmingham. So Evan's competitor, but hey, don't care about all that. Still all good friends here.
Yeah, we all are trying to do the same thing at the end of the day, pass along weather
Exactly.
info. It's our
Yep.
bosses that want the ratings and the competition
Yes.
and
Oh,
whatnot.
for sure. Yeah. I'm like, sorry, one of my besties works over at 3340, so we got to get over it.
I always like to bring this up when people say they work with Evan, is that Evan actually beat me out for that job. So if it
No
wasn't for me
way.
being worse than Evan at the job, you would have never had Evan.
Oh, my goodness. So I'd be
Small world.
besties with you instead,
Yeah.
Wes.
And I don't even know if I would be here in Kansas City. I may be in
Right.
some other city.
Yeah, he interviewed right before me, shortly after we
Wow.
graduated, like end of 2014, beginning of 2015. And I didn't
Mhm.
know at the time, but like we were, I think, interviewing for the same position. And then Lauren, you
Wow.
interviewed right after and
Mhm.
got there too. So we all kind of had an interesting, like, overlapping track. Just a reminder of
Wow.
how small this business is.
Very, very small, eerily small at times.
So we've talked a lot of things weather, but
Mhm.
when we're on air, right? Like Wes, I'm sure you've gotten random people commenting about how you look or how you do something. I've gotten the most recently I was told I'm a windmill. And I found out it's because I move my hands too much or my arms, which is quite funny. Um, and some of them are funny, but a lot of people think that they can say whatever they want. And
Mhm.
for those of you out there who are watching and watch local news, um, it could be tough, especially as a female, because people, for whatever reason, think they can say whatever they want and can judge and all this other stuff. And it's not easy finding the right thing to wear and to get up there every day. So, Lauren's going to talk a little bit about that. How do you go about that, Lauren? And what have you had like experience wise?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've had to build a tough skin. I think Evan can attest to it. I'm a very sensitive, dramatic human being and a little bit sassy too. So I've had to kind of learn over time where to put my energy, what to give my energy to. And I think that was something really hard for me early on in my career. You would get people who just feel very comfortable behind the comfort of their screen who would just say whatever they felt like. Now, I sit at home, I watch people on TV. Let's say, oh, I don't really like that dress that woman is wearing. I would never, ever think to email a TV station and say I didn't like that dress. Why would I say that? To have the audacity is crazy to me. So I just really had to kind of build up a tough skin over time and learn that a lot of times when people make these comments, it says a lot more about them than you. Now, in this business, I think it's always good for us to be open to constructive criticism. But when it comes down to just outright coming after someone's physical appearance, the way they look, that they can't change, like this is the way I was made, or if they have an issue with their clothing, it seems like we don't need to be putting our energy and giving that attention because it only hurts you in the end. And obviously, you just kind of have to think these people are going through something that you don't understand. I'm not even on TV anymore. And I posted something last night. Evan knows this. I don't really care about sports. But of course, anytime the Super Bowl is on, I'm like, that means food and a good halftime show.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, ooh, fun, get to watch Bad Bunny. And I posted how much I loved it afterwards. And someone came after me. It's like, figures you would like that. You have a face for radio. What is that? What does that even mean? I don't know, but the way people can just come after your appearance for no reason was always difficult to deal with in this business. I do feel, especially, there is a double standard with women because, as a guy, you guys can probably wear the same suit, you could wear the same tie every day, and most viewers wouldn't notice. But let's say if a woman wore the same dress on air 5 days in a row, there would probably be an email about it. You can't do that. You've got to have more variety. Actually, now that I'm out of TV, I have 200 dresses sitting upstairs that I need to get rid of that I have amassed over a 10-year career. My husband is like, are you going to sell those anytime soon? So we can kind of make some more room in the closet. But yeah, because you've got to have variety. You can't wear the same thing all the time. So there is definitely a double standard and navigating that. But just one thing I've learned over time, it is not worth giving your energy to sometimes. And if something really does bother you and hurt you, talk with someone about it. I know I would always send Evan screenshots about stuff that people said about me and how it upset me. But over time, you just kind of move on and get on with your life.
Yeah, I haven't worn makeup as a guy in probably like 8 or 9 years. There are many men in this industry that still wear makeup, and I'm just like, Evan wears makeup. And whenever I talk to other guys about this, my answer is like, you're a guy. Like, it's okay. Like viewers expect less of you when it comes to your looks. Now, if I have an ill-fitting suit or like something, I'll hear from it. But no one has ever sent me an email saying like, you should put some makeup on. That blemish on your cheek is really,
right.
really like showing through. Never happened before.
Yeah. Even go ahead. Even before I got on tonight, I was like, oh my God, I have to put on makeup because I'm going to be on a camera. There's going to be a ring light shining in my face. And otherwise, I had to, thanks. That's been the nice thing about being unemployed is I'm not wearing makeup a lot. My skin is loving it, but there is just this double standard. You have to be made up a little bit more. And even as I've been doing more digital meteorology and social media videos, I'm like, oh my God, I still have to put on makeup for these too.
Yeah, you mentioned the double standard, and it does kind of suck. I do have to wear makeup. My skin's not as nice and radiant as Wes over there. But, something that I learned very early is, like you said, Lauren, like you can wear and I didn't have hardly any suits. I think I had two. I could wear the same suit almost every day, a black suit, change the shirt, change the tie, whatever. It's easy. And we didn't get necessarily the criticism, but in our business, they have a very strict, at least where I've worked, like dress policy, like what you have to wear. And believe it or not, folks out there, it is hard to find dresses that you can wear that are TV appropriate because show too much skin or whatever, and it's like, the sky's falling down, but it makes it even harder in that aspect, right?
It does, indeed. And Evan, I remember when we were in Dothan, there was this big kerfuffle in the newsroom one day because I think our news director at the time had been getting complaints about, the younger women on staff. A lot of people are fresh out of college, it's your first professional job, wearing sleeveless dresses, which they make sleeveless dresses. Like, it's okay. Your shoulders aren't going to hurt anybody. But I remember, in your first TV station, you're not making a lot of money. So you're now being told, hey, guys, we're actually going to change the dress policy for women on air. You have to now wear dresses that have sleeves. And all of us were so stressed out. I remember all the girls got in this pack and went into the news director's office. Of course, I started crying naturally, because those dresses were expensive. So we already had sleeveless dresses in our wardrobe, and now we're being told we can't do that anymore because it's inappropriate. So anyway, that didn't end up happening, which is good. And there is a way to dress professionally, and you get to learn that, and you can get guidance from mentors. But there's always something. And, do you have a full body shot? Is your dress too short? God forbid you have a full body shot and it shows the ankle monitor, right? that we all wear, that carries our IFB where we hear in our ear and our mic pack. If you have any type of weight fluctuation, like most humans go through at some point in their life, that can show. I mean, I have dresses that range from like size 2 to size 10 now, just because over your 10-year career, your weight fluctuates. And of course, people love to speculate. Let's say you've eaten something and you had a big dinner and then you go back to work and people wondering if you're expecting, and they will ask that. So that kind of thing, I didn't get that a lot early in my career. Later on, that kind of became more of a thing as I became an adult and matured and gained weight like most of us do. And so that was strange to deal with. But again, it's a reflection on the person. I always have to turn it back to that, because naturally what I want to do is immediately respond and go after someone because I got some good words. I can come back at you.
You can write.
But I have to choose to step away, if not for their sake, for my sake and my own mental health and peace.
Yeah, because if you respond, I mean, like, it can, and then if they respond, you can just get going. Mm-hmm. And that's happened to me before. We're like, I will go back and forth with somebody and be like, all right, like, this is actually maybe not as rewarding as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And then we just kind of move on. But was there a stop, like, was there any city in particular that you felt like you were more heavily criticized than any other? Or, is it men or women that you get more criticism from in general?
That's a good question, a very good question. I would say the stop that I got the most criticism is possibly where I had the most visibility. When I was in Columbus, Georgia, I was the weekday morning meteorologist. And it's a smaller market, so when you're on the morning show in a smaller market, you're a big deal. So I would constantly, and you're on for a longer period of time, so I would constantly get emails about my appearance. And one time because back then I clapped back, still a little young, I would clap back at people. And sometimes it's good to clap back, but as I got older, like, it's not worth it. My management would encourage me, like, Lauren, just take the high road. But there, I remember I clapped back at someone one time because they were basically saying I didn't have a wide variety of dresses. And which is not true, because I had a ton of dresses, but was complaining about me always wearing the same dresses. And I clapped back and it went viral. You never know what's going to go viral, right? No. The content you want to go viral, that's important and, like, educational and meaningful, never goes viral. So one where I clapped back at someone coming after me about my dress and my dresses, and someone at Yahoo reached out to me to do an article about it, and just kind of taking the high road and talking about the double standard women have in this industry. But what I have noticed, you were mentioning this, Wes, what hurts me a lot when it comes to, like, actual appearance, it feels like a lot of times it is women coming after other women. And I hate that. But to me, that speaks a lot to, like, the internal struggle that a lot of women are facing, and maybe the internalized misogyny they have developed over their own life, encountering that from other people and internalizing it and then turning that pain outward.
You are a big advocate, I know, for mental health, and I feel like mental health, and Wes, I don't know your thoughts on this, but it wasn't really talked about. I know when I was growing up at all, like, it's just not, sports, school, whatever. But this is one of those businesses, not just from the standpoint of getting criticized, but it can have some crazy hours, and you could be asked to do all sorts of things, and it can wear on you. Advice on kind of the mental, I guess, juggling of this and how it might be different, say, for you, for other women in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that has been one of the biggest hurdles I've actually had to reckon with since I've gotten out of the business, is realizing what a toll the 10 years in TV had taken on me mentally. Now, when I was at my second station in Columbus, I was doing mornings, and you'll know that morning grind is really rough, and I'm an early riser, but I still didn't realize the effect that was having on my body until later.
2 a.m. is not, like, it doesn't matter.
It's not normal. It's not normal. And I mean, there is research that shows it has physical and mental effects, adverse effects on your body. And so what I didn't realize is that even when I had a quote unquote normal schedule here in Birmingham, when I was working evenings and weekend evenings, granted, so my off days were Monday and Tuesday, I didn't realize how burnout I was. That was something I've really had to reckon with in the 4 months since I left my station, is learning to rest, and that my body needed rest because wherever I end up next, whatever I end up doing, I am not going to be able to give that company, that organization, that entity 100% if I have not taken care of myself first. And I didn't have anything left. I remember about a month before I left WBRC, I was up at work one weekend just thinking, we were in the show, it was a 10 o'clock show or whatever, and I was in between hits. And I was just thinking, I don't want to be in this building anymore. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. I want to go home to my husband and my cat. I don't want to be working here on a Sunday night. I'm doing what I love, and I didn't like it anymore. I didn't want to get up there and give the forecast. And so I literally that night, while I was at work, in between a weather hit, I Googled water signs of burnout. This textbook. I was experiencing all of it. And that's not to say, oh, my last station gave me burnout. No, it's just like the culmination of working in this industry and how over the past decade, we have had a lot more put on our plates with the digital priorities and how TV is changing rapidly and there's such a focus on digital first. Well, a lot of us are having all these extra tasks added on our plate. And we have to establish ourselves as a brand as well, because goodness knows where this business is going to go. So that is something that I've really had to reckon with, and the toll that it took on me. I remember when I first lost my job, my sister said, Lauren, I know you're going to feel like you need to keep producing content, keep posting stuff on social media, because how else was I going to get a job if I didn't keep doing that and showing myself like, oh, I'm still capable of doing weather explainers. I'm still capable of doing cool environmental interest stories. She said, if you don't get yourself off of the hamster wheel, I'm afraid you never will. And I was shocked. Like a hamster wheel, what does she mean? But that's what it feels like sometimes in this industry. Yeah, you're going and going and going and going. And I didn't step off the hamster wheel willingly. I had been considering it, but it was almost like I was pushed off a little bit and forced to reckon with the fact that I didn't know who I was outside of my career anymore. I didn't know who Lauren was as a person without the title of meteorologist. And that is something I've been having to come to terms with over the past 4 months.
I think that is one of like the biggest hurdles that a lot of people that are leaving the industry have to come to terms with, is the fact that, like you're no longer the public figure that you used to be. And some people get into the industry to be like a public figure in particular. And so that's extra tough. And something that I found out through conversation with my friends that have different jobs that have changed their careers is they also struggle with, you're changing your life, like who you are. But I think it's extra difficult for us who are in public, situations that like people only know us as the person on TV or social media. And now you're just going to fade into society and become, what essentially is a normal person. And in a lot of regards, that's good, right? But that doesn't mean it's easy to do. No,
that's so well said, Wes. I mean, we don't realize how much of our identity becomes wrapped up in our jobs. And especially as broadcasters, most of us go into this with the need to want to serve the public. Like we have a need to want to help people with our love and knowledge of weather and passion for risk communication. It's something that we're very passionate about, and we want to be that public servant. But when you leave that public servant role, what is left? And I felt like when I left, I didn't know who I was anymore. I felt like a shell of myself, and this thing kept going through my head. You're not good enough. You're not worthy. And that was stuff I've struggled with a lot in my life. But I thought, been on my mental health journey. I've gotten better with that. But it really takes losing a job to make you reckon with that and realize, when I'm on my deathbed one day, is that job going to be what matters? Is that going to be the thing that I'm going to be thinking about right before I take my last breath? Or is it going to be about the people in my life? And so I've had to kind of switch my thinking around a little bit. I still want to do good work. If I can still do work in some capacity in meteorology, that would be great. But I really had to cultivate finding my life outside of work because, the next day after my contract wasn't renewed, my job was posted the next day. If something happens to you, if something awful happens to you, your job's still going to be posted the next day. So we put so much of ourselves into these positions, into these companies, and we want to do good work, and that makes us proud and feel like we're giving back to our community. But we have to work on ourselves too. I always say you can't pour from an empty cup. And at the end of my TV tenure, my cup was long dried up.
Yeah, that was a good point to hit on, because there are so many things, outside. People sometimes see us on TV and they're like, oh, they just wanted to be on TV. No, I think
Mm-hmm.
all of us here, I know you for sure,
Yeah.
Lawrence, we talked about this, but, we had something in our childhood that drove us towards this. And, I
Mm-hmm.
looked to the person on air to tell me it was going to be okay because I was terrified of weather. And we want to, pass that on too. So it's a public service. We're trying to let people know. But there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes here. And you mentioned it. We're just another person. So as much as we can pour, our soul into what we're doing, the second our contract's up, or, we're not fitting that mold that they want, you just find somebody else, and you find out that, oh, well, I guess I'm not as special as I would have thought. And that could be something tough to deal with. I don't know that I would know my identity. I was talking to our anchor the other day about what I would do off of TV, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not good at
Uh-huh.
anything else other than explaining the weather. Like, I don't know what I would do. Like, be a teacher. I'd love to do that, but it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a very niche, particular like subject. So it's like people understand that there's a lot that goes into it outside of being on TV, and really what we're here for, most of us are here for, is to be helpful and to get that relentless criticism. We get the forecast wrong. It happens. But at the end of the day, we're trying to help. We're trying to pass along good information.
That's very true. And talking about that and all that goes into our job, I was actually applying to a job today, communications job outside of weather. It's still science based. But I was having to look up like writing samples and social media samples and content creation samples. And I was having to go back on my social media and look at stuff that I had done for work. And as I was looking at it, it kind of made me sentimental. I was thinking, I miss this. I miss being able to do this every day. And what we have such cool jobs. I mean, we are living our dream, right? This is the dream we had, and we're living it. But that dream was, and then I have to snap back into reality. It's like that dream was becoming a little bit of a nightmare for you. I always worked in good places. I worked with good people, but just the demands of the job got to me. And they get to a lot of people. And I think it's okay for us to admit, some of this stuff is not okay. It's too much. And sometimes you need to take a step back in order to maybe put yourself in a position to be able to give your all again and find a way to maintain work-life balance. That was something I did not have at all. And that is something that is, I'm setting a boundary for myself going forward, whatever I do. I'm not going to say I would never not get back into TV. I don't know. But I do know that that's a non-negotiable for me moving forward. I have to have work-life balance because I have to have that sanctuary that I can come home to at the end of the day. And now I'm married. In the past, when I was single, I was like, I don't care. I'll work all day. I'm ambitious, girl boss. I'll do it. But now I'm like, oh God, I have to think about another person now, man. So, it just factors in. And I know all my family, they say they miss watching me on TV, but they are so happy I'm not in it anymore because they were seeing what it was doing to me.
That work-life balance is so difficult to have as a meteorologist.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is probably our positions in a TV station are probably the most difficult to have a work-life balance outside of being a manager, the news director, or something like that, because there's
Mm-hmm.
weather always
Yes.
happening. Obviously, there are quiet times, and we know when our work-life balance will be more thrown off than others, but it's a small group in your department. You always try to have each other's backs. And
Yeah.
if there's weather going on, like your work life balance is thrown out the window, and like your colleagues are a family, and it's not like work husband, work husband. It's not like that. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're like in the trenches
Yeah.
with your
100%.
colleague, with your soldier, and it's like, hey, calling in sick or taking extended vacation, you can start to feel bad because you care so much about your colleagues.
And unlike, I use this. I had a tough time, with my wife. She's an accountant, and I didn't mean this as a bashing at all, but when we first got married, it was tough because a project that she has, right, that she's working on, she could take a day or two. Obviously there's a deadline, but if she's not there, somebody else can pick up the slack. When we are not there, there's literally not a body, and TV goes on. And when you're in the trenches, Lauren and I did so many severe weather events together. Some of them hilarious, others, but you care about that other person or that team to the point where you put all of that effort there. And it's not until like the dust settles that you realize what you replaced that with, that the personal time. Or I have a family and I got two kids. Wes has a daughter, and it's figuring that out while also being there for your team. And it's just another thing to put on top of also people being a little crazy on social media. So that's something I think I don't know if we ever master. I certainly don't. I get almost addicted to constantly working, making sure there's constantly enough of you given. And sometimes at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like it was. And you've also shortchanged your family.
That's very powerful, and it's so vulnerable of you guys both to share your experience, and both of you being dads too. I don't have children, but I have seen my colleagues who do have children in the industry. This industry is very tough on if you want to have a family. I've seen colleagues at work who would have to bring, when it's spring break or something, or winter break, but the news is still going on, the weather's still going on. So I would see anchors like have to have their kids in the green room, and like someone else from work would like go work remote and watch them while they are there because it's hard to get childcare. Yeah. So that's the thing too. A lot of people, one reason I've seen people get out of the business is because it's difficult on their families and it's hard to have childcare. I know, Evan, you were telling me at 3340, like what you were having to do early on with your kids with childcare, and how your changing schedules could help or hurt that. It's a very delicate balance. And as you were saying, that can make all the difference. You put so much of yourself into this work, but is your family at home suffering because of it?
Lauren, do you have any, role models, especially early on in your career, whenever you were getting into it and like really in the deep of it? Who were you looking up to? Like who was an example to you?
So you may not know this, before I even started in TV, I was at CNN as a tour guide. That was my first job out of college. And because I thought I was going to go on to be like a climate scientist or a professor, I also got a degree in French. So I thought about being a French professor too. Crazy. But so I went to CNN to be a tour guide because I thought I should probably give this meteorology thing a shot. But I had always psyched myself out and thought, I can't do it because of the math. Can't do that.
Oh, yeah.
But I had done geosciences was my undergrad, and I had done some climate research for my senior thesis on heat waves in the Southeast. And so I remember my professor encouraging me, if you wanted to potentially look into broadcasting, maybe get some media experience. So that's what I did. My first job was as a tour guide at CNN. So I was there maybe about a year and a half out of college. And the weather team there, I couldn't have gotten my first job in Dothan without them. There were three people working there who were instrumental in my career, and I still consider my big mentors in the business. Jennifer Gray, she was with CNN at the time. Now, she's left CNN. She does some stuff with the Weather Channel now. Todd Borick, he was one of the weather producers there. And also Matt Daniel, he was a weather producer there, and he works at Fox 6 here in Birmingham.
I didn't realize Matt Daniel. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, and he actually helped me because when I applied for the job in Dothan, Evan, the first time, our news director at the time, Kim, he said, I think your tape is great, because I did it at CNN. They didn't have a green screen there. They just had like, what would you even call it now? The technology has changed, but it was like a little weather wall.
Monitor?
Yeah, BAM. Yes. Yeah, it was a BAM. That was it. And so that's what my entire first tape was on, because Jennifer and Todd helped me with that. But Kim, my news director in Dothan, said, you need to see if maybe we can see how you do on a green screen, because it's not something that just immediately comes to you. So they set me up with Matt Daniel to go down to his station. He was doing the weekends in Macon at WMAZ. And Matt Daniel taught me how to work on a green screen. So fast forward several years later, Matt Daniel is the one who told me about the opening here at Birmingham at Fox 6. And so he helped me get the job here, and now he's like one of my besties. So the people, I've had some great mentors in the business, and you acquire more mentors over time. But I would say those weather producers and the meteorologists at CNN that I had early on are the ones who believed in me. And they still check in with me to this day, but they made me believe just because I didn't have a traditional path didn't mean I was any less worthy to be in these spaces. And all it takes is one person taking a chance on you, having faith in you. I applied to so many TV jobs, and it was the news director in Dothan, Kim Allen, who gave me that first shot. And it was the weather team at CNN, who it's a national news network, and all of it was still mostly in Atlanta then. But that's another topic for another day. But it's just really good to have people who are rooting for you early on in your career, and you always want to pay it forward, right? I'm sure you guys have mentors and now maybe have some mentees as well. So it's good. You were talking about the family we have in the news business, Wes, and I feel like we have that in our meteorology community. We always have people who are going to be looking out for us, and I think that's essential to getting through, especially the tough days.
Yeah, it's a smaller web than you'd think. So it's always good to make connections. And as we all talked about at the beginning, we all actually had some Dothan, connection, and that's just one of 210 stations. So it is cool to pay it forward to. I've had several interns, and one of them who actually works for us now. I in part hired her because when she worked with us, she had drive, right? Like everyone's a little rough around the edges when they first get into the business. It takes time
Right.
to get there, but she had a good work ethic. And to be honest, you need diversity on a team. We had a bunch of dudes, and I told our news director, I said, we've got to get a female in here. We got to get, because you get a different perspective, a different delivery, and you can relate better when you have that diversity. So I still think the best team we had from a diversity standpoint was back when we were in Dothan. It was me, Lauren, Chief Meteorologist David Paul's been on here, and good old critter Caroline Ritter was on the team. And it felt full. We all had a little different background, but we all brought something to the table, and it was good. We could all relate to different people, and that's very important.
Yeah, and it's so interesting you mentioned that too about diversity, because one reason I owe so much to the meteorologist at CNN, Jennifer, my mentor, I remember I felt so cool, and it never has happened again in my TV career. They let me get my hair and makeup done at CNN. They're like, yeah, we can get you ready for it. Little did I know that would never, ever happen again.
No, we don't have
but the hairstylist at CNN, I was like, yeah, I probably need to straighten my hair. She's like, no, you need to keep your hair curly. This is back in 2014, 2015. And I'm like, well, no one on TV has curly hair. She's like, your hair is beautiful. You need to wear it that way. Who cares? And Jennifer was like, your hair is gorgeous. You need to wear it that way. Now, when I first got the job in Dothan, they told me I needed to straighten my hair. Yep.
I remember.
I mean, if you need a visual what my hair looks like straight, this is how I feel when I wear my hair straight. I think I look like Professor Snape. So it's not a vibe. I don't feel like Snape should be giving us a weather forecast. But I did that for the first 6 months of my career in Dothan. And finally, it's Dothan, Alabama. It's 80 degrees. The dew points are 80. It's in the 90s in the summer. The dew points in the 70s. You're just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the Gulf. Like, it's humid. It's disgusting outside. And I'm like, I can't keep doing this. So one weekend, I was the weekend meteorologist. I'm like, I'm just going to wear my hair curly. No one said anything. And so I'm like, well, maybe I'll just do it on Monday when I have to go report. No one said anything. I think they were just kind of like, oh, yeah, it does look a little better that way. But that was back in 2015, 2016. No one was wearing their hair curly. And now that has changed. It's just crazy over the past decade how there has been such a change, and how you see more women of color getting to wear their natural hairstyles, because representation matters. It is so important, especially for women and people of color, to be able to see people who look like them on TV. Because I know you guys know when we go to school talks, it's so inspiring seeing these kids who have this interest in weather, and we can see ourselves in them, and we want them to be able to see themselves in us, to help them believe that anything is possible if you set your mind to it.
You know, that actually kind of led into my next question, Lauren, is like, what would you tell a young meteorologist who is just getting into her first job?
Okay, so let's see. I need to probably have like a little list, like a CVS receipt of advice, right? But I would say be authentically yourself. Authenticity resonates so much with people, and it resonates with our audience. And I know you guys both practice this. Being your most authentic self in this business helps people to trust you. And trust is vital to have, because we want people to trust us. Yes, we want them to trust us on the sunny days, like it's 70 degrees, dew points are in the 40s, go knock yourself out, beautiful day. But we want them to be able to trust us to give them information without hype. Again, that's another episode. Without hype, without any kind of agenda. They want to be able to trust us. And in order to do that, you're your most authentic self. And I think it was Ginger Z who said one time, she said, people's comments, whether positive or negative, I don't take that in. Whether it's good comments from people or bad comments, just kind of remain neutral. Like, your self-worth has to come from within. And there are going to be a lot of people who have something to say about you, but you have to choose where to place your energy, because your energy is so valuable, and you don't want to just give it away to someone who doesn't matter. So be authentically yourself and protect your energy and know which battles to face. Also, if you do get a mean comment, because they are going to come, my therapist always tells me this, because, you know, I get in trouble sometimes with my clapbacks. Walk away. Give yourself 10 minutes and walk away and come back. Will you still want to make that same sassy comment? Probably not. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. And you get to take the high road and feel better about yourself. Go take a walk outside. There's a whole world outside away from these phones of ours, right? There's a whole beautiful world outside. So when you can, step out in nature too.
Yeah, I don't want this to seem like everything in TV is negative. It's not. We're just trying to like shine a light on that. And you pointed towards a good thing. There's more of an acceptance now, and it does come from the, you know, you want to be able to relate to everybody, and the authenticity. At least at the end of the day, if somebody does not like what you're doing, or, you know, you get a complaint, you can stand by it because you're being you. If you're trying to be somebody else and they don't like it, well, how are you going to battle back? You know what I mean? And I think you'll gain respect over time, just being yourself and staying true to it. Those people are always going to come, and, you know, social media, it's a different beast. I don't stay on it for very long. I post my weather and I get off. Wes and I have talked about this. We stay on it and we start seeing people with the hyperbole and nonsense, and it's just not good. It's not good. So,
no.
But there have been positives in this field, and it's cool to see where it goes. But there's a lot of unknowns, you know, like how long is TV going to be important? When does it pivot almost exclusively to, you know, being on social and everything else? So that's good stuff to tell people, you know, when they get in here.
Yeah, and that is a thing. I actually just got back from the AMS conference in Houston. Thankfully, I was able to go. It was almost comforting to know there were a lot of other scientists without jobs right now. So, yeah, again, we're a big family. It's like, okay, we can all lean on each other for support. But there were a lot of students there, and I felt bad because I also did a talk on mental health in the atmospheric sciences. And I didn't just want to stay there and like, TV is all bad, run away. You know how Scar says in Lion King, run away and never return. You know, I don't want to scare kids off like they're little Simba and they need to run away. But I remember telling them, put yourself out there. Sometimes it can feel intimidating, but you have to build your own brand. and I almost hate saying that because it feels narcissistic, it feels selfish, but you have to be able to do that in order to survive in this crazy climate we are in terms of how fast technology is moving and how it's exponential the way things are going digitally. And so, but make sure your brand is a reliable one and a trustworthy one, because some people's brands right now are getting tarnished by the very poor decisions they're making.
Yeah.
Okay, falling into, we get it, monetization, that's great. We'd all like a little extra money, for real. But it's just, is it worth throwing your integrity away? Is it worth preying on the people you serve? Some of them who've been through some very impactful weather events.
It is really tough to kind of like, you have to market yourself. Or like
Yeah.
whenever you're on TV, like broadcast meteorology, like we don't go to marketing classes. But
No.
there's so much like self-marketing, like including the viewers, just like in on your daily lives that, it takes a while to get comfortable. Some people longer than others to get comfortable, just like including viewers in your life, because especially, you've been taught like they're weirdos online. You don't want them to see what's going on with their personal life. And to some extent, you still have to remember that. But that's part of the, being a public figure, letting people in, marketing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I just recently, since I'm not on TV anymore, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have got to find a way to get some money from social media. So I was finally able to get my Facebook page monetized, because out of the 3 markets I've been in, that's where people are. They're on Facebook. Yeah. I wish you guys weren't. If you're listening, please go somewhere other than Facebook. But hey, whatever, you're there. So I was able to get my page monetized, and it's so interesting because now I'm looking at social media analytics and seeing what posts do better than others, and what posts earn me the most money. Selfies.
Yep.
It's not the weather posts. Also, I can spend so much time editing a little cute social media video. It's the selfies every time. Or my mother-in-law keeps telling me, Lauren, you need to post more wedding pics for my wedding. She's like, that's going to get you some good money. I'm like, I don't want to do that. It's really private. I don't want to share all of them. I posted one. It got me like $30.
Yeah.
I get it.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I do. Yeah. I got 4 cats. The cat pictures do pretty well too.
It's such a tough balance because, even when we first got into this in 2015 and 2014, Facebook was there. Twitter had been around before, it turned to X. TikTok didn't exist, and Instagram was in its kind of infancy. But now you have to juggle all that. And, I've always seen this as a public service. You want to give out good information. And there's some people who take the whole selfie thing to the next level, to an extreme, where they make it all about them. So what we have to do is let people in just enough, but then make our content that's about serving people. And it drives me nuts. I will spend time, I love, Wes knows this, I love Canva. I make so many things on there. I'll spend all this time and then I'll share something and it won't do a dang thing.
No.
I share something of us playing in the backyard and it goes nuts. I'm like, what?
Yeah. And there's no rhyme or reason. I was talking about that when I clapped back at that woman for coming after me about my dress back when I lived in Columbus. That went viral. I'm like, why? I've posted so many thoughtful weather-related content where you want to educate people and share your passion and, get into the risk communication. No, but again, it's just a fine line. So you have to balance. And I feel like us being in the business for over a decade now, we can kind of tell when something's more self-serving versus just like, just trying to post a selfie, right? You're right. There is a fine line where it goes kind of in like, we get it. You love you. That's awesome. But yeah, that has been very discouraging to see, like, gosh, I gotta post a selfie every now and then. Ugh, don't want to. But that's where I'm like, that doesn't feel authentic. I have to be authentic. I have to be authentically me. But I mean, I guess don't force yourself. If you find yourself taking a selfie and it feels natural, if you got your cat nearby, maybe use your husband as a prop, whatever. It's fine.
Prop.
Well, like I can just tell, how we're all 3 discussing this is that we would rather people judge us for our intellectual ability, our ability to forecast, rather than like what dress you're wearing, the shirt that Evan is wearing, something like that. Because, the ratio of of people saying something about how we're dressing to our forecast is like 100 to 1. Like
Right.
they were most likely to say something about your physical appearance and saying, "Hey, thanks so much for telling me it was going to rain exactly at 2 p.m. So I moved the time of my picnic."
Yeah, right, right. You think that's valuable information, and it speaks to your forecasting ability, and again instills that trust. But that's not what's getting the clicks. I have a friend, Rochelle. She is a meteorologist in Baltimore, and a while back she made a post on Facebook saying, "Hey, this is who I am." She was establishing herself in a new station, and she said, "I just want to say I don't want any comments ever about my appearance. If you do comment about my appearance, I'm going to delete them." She set a boundary for herself, even if it's positive comments. She's like, "I don't want to be looked at as, oh, you're a beautiful woman," right? She's like, "I don't want to hear that. I'm here to deliver the message about the science and share my love and passion for science and science communication and astronomy and weather." And I thought that was really powerful of her to do that and kind of set those boundaries with viewers. Like, no, even if you're being, I don't want to hear any comments about my appearance.
So to spin it back to kind of positive again, what would you say has kind of been, if you had to pick one or two, a high point of this, and then something that, this business taught you that you'll take with you wherever you go?
And I was telling you guys when I was applying for a random non-on-air job today, I was looking through all my stuff. I miss it. I miss the camaraderie. I miss being in the studio with a team. But there have been some really cool experiences. I think I talk with a lot of people who work in other industries, and I feel like they have not made the tight-knit relationships that we have with some of the people we've worked with. Because as you guys have mentioned, you're in the trenches with your fellow soldiers. You are working weird hours, you're working holidays, you're working weekends. The news and weather never stop. So you really bond with people. And some of my best friends that I have to this day I wouldn't have if it weren't for this business. If it weren't for this business coming to Birmingham, I would have never met my husband. You never know where this business will take you. And I just want to encourage people, if you do happen to get a job in a random place, embrace that, embrace the community, because my life feels so much richer because of the different places I have lived. And it's scary and intimidating going out on your own. Some people go across the country from their family, but if you really, it's cliche, but bloom where you're planted, it's just going to make your life richer, and it's going to make you a better person, and it's going to expand your wide network of people. One of the reasons I'm such a bad texter is I've amassed so many friends over the years. Okay, Evan, don't.
Attest to that.
Don't even.
Merry Christmas, Lo. Hey, end of January. How you doing?
Yeah, that sounds all right. And my birthday was last week, and I still have like 40 messages I haven't responded to people. I'm like, probably watching this podcast, like, yeah. But just the people that you meet, it's been so wonderful. And my confidence in myself and my ability, I love myself so much more than I did when I started, because there's been so much growth. Like, you're put through the ringer. But I guess it has to go with, diamonds or something under pressure, and you make a diamond, right? And I know I'm a force to be reckoned with now. And I've grown so much in this industry, and it's tough, but you have a wonderful opportunity to serve your communities, wherever that community may be, and get out in that community and become a part of it, and don't be a slave to your job. Cultivate your life outside of work in these communities that you go to live in, and you never know what magic you'll find and what relationships you'll build along the way. And one of the things I've always said, I was a very shy person growing up. Even though you're on TV, you assume, oh, you must be an extrovert. I'm actually pretty shy. And one of the things I had to do in my first job in Dothan, I will know I've cried about this so many times, was reporting. But being forced to report for my first job, I was forced to have to call people, and that was so uncomfortable. Like, no, I want my mom to call people and make doctor's appointments. Can my mom call these people that I'm trying to pitch a story to, try to get an interview? It was so uncomfortable. I would call my mom crying in the car. I would cry in the edit bays at work. Evan would have to come and calm me down, cry the weather sitter, always crying. But now, 10 years later, I know how to talk to people. I know how to pitch stories. I know how to edit social media videos because I had to edit freaking packages all the time on a tight deadline. So there are so many tough things about this business, but the growth that you will experience, it's going to make you a better human being. And I feel like you're going to have a passion to want to serve your communities even more as you go through it.
I would have never suspected that you are an introvert.
Oh, yeah, I am. I am. After this, I will be going on my couch, putting my blanket over me, and just like taking 10 minutes.
Oh man, yeah, I was like that too until, me and Wes went to school together. So, we were, I joke all the time. I'm like, Wes, I knew in 2010 when we took classes together that we were going to be best buds in our mid 30s. But we're just comfortable on camera, not necessarily like, extroverted. So, you have to learn this personality, learn your confidence. Last thing I will say, and this is more of a share, Lauren and I were doing severe weather coverage. So there was this event in 2015 where a squall line, almost like a derecho, set up, to the west over Mobile. And we saw this thing tracking along the Gulf Coast, really all afternoon. And, we're all new here. Like, we didn't have a chief. Our main guy at the time was out of town. So it was a bunch of rookies.
Ridiculous, honestly. Ridiculous. What were they thinking? Yeah, letting us three clowns run the show.
Clowns is right. We're in the studio. We had this generator in our back parking lot. Okay, and when it kicked on, it had this loud roar, Wes, and you could hear it from our studio. Well, we're in the middle of coverage. There's a warning out. I think it was just a severe. I don't think it was a tour, but we all of a sudden hear this roar. It was the generator kicking on. And we tried to tell like our sports team, like, get down, there's a tornado outside, blah, 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 blah. We were so, and our sports director at the time, Tony Cornish Jr., was like rolling his eyes like, oh, these new people don't have a freaking clue. He didn't want to go to the safe place. Me, Lauren, and Thomas Gieboy, who's chief in Mobile. We had zero chill, but we learned a ton,
We did.
But that's a memory I'll always have.
Evan, I think I still have a picture of you on my phone from that day I took of you when we were stepping outside, and you're looking at the generator, and you're like, because you realized what it was. And I remember after that, and we went and drove out to the it wasn't the Peanut Festival. It was Toad Lick. It was and it had been like completely destroyed by these straight line winds. That is the first event in my career, and I always go back to straight line winds can be worse than a low end tornado. I will always remember that. Yeah, because it was a concert, and they had to end the concert. It was awful, and I remember we drove around in our news car after that. So the stuff that happens in your first market is wild.
It's like an extension of college sometimes.
It is.
You're still very young. It's like, okay, I actually have some money now. I feel like very excited and vibrant. I'm like an adult now, and just silly stuff happens to you that you're just not prepared for.
Exactly. And that when you get in this business, I feel like some of my closest friends I made in my first market. Because you are in the trenches, and the trenches are really that first market.
Yeah.
Especially because yes, you're out of college and making money, but especially 10 years ago, I feel like they're hiring people out of college in bigger markets now. That would have never happened when I was applying for jobs. But I remember in Dothan, my first job, I was making $24,000. Crazy for the first job, So, but we were still going to folklore. We were still going to the breweries. We were still doing, what we needed to do to hang in there and get through the trenches together.
I don't know that any of this could have been said better. I'm really glad that you came on and shared, because this was applicable to not just women in the workforce, but just kind of details behind the curtain of what we all go through.
Right, that's true. I know. I feel like I started talking about like, yeah, women, and then I was like, oh, let me just tell you all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. But I want people. I think transparency is so important, and we need to be more transparent. And some of this stuff does need to be called out. But I also don't want to scare people away from their dream either, because there are so many wonderful things that I have so many wonderful memories, and I'm so glad. Again, I don't know what my personal journey is going to look like next, but I'm thankful that I did have the time and television that I had. And I see you guys doing awesome work. And again, we don't know what it's going to look like down the road, but we aren't alone. And that's sometimes, especially if you're in a market alone and don't have anyone else around, sometimes it's hard to remember that, but we are never alone. We've always got people.
Yeah, very important. She is meteorologist Lauren Linahan. We go way back. She's very good at what she does. Great explainer. So go follow her. I forgot to add your social handles.
Oh, yeah.
But you can type it in. I'm sure you'll find it wherever. But anything else you want to add, Lauren, or Wes, you want to ask?
No, that was great. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on. This has been an awesome conversation with you.
You're welcome. One thing I do want to leave with you guys is something, like, what's like an inspirational quote I can leave? And I don't remember if I said this already, but this is something that helped me a lot in broadcasting. Comparison is the thief of joy. It's one of those quotes I'm like, I think Theodore Roosevelt said it, but it could just be, people will attribute a random quote to some historical figure. But focusing on yourself versus worrying so much about what other people are doing and comparing yourself. Like, I'm not as far along. Focus on yourself first and pour into yourself, because everyone's on a different journey and you never know what someone's going through.
That last part especially true. You never know. You have to get yourself together on TV, but it doesn't mean you have it all together behind the scenes.
Exactly. Thanks
so much, Lauren. We'll certainly be following. I know I will. I'll text you and probably hear back in a month, but we'll continue on.
Well, thank you for loving me despite my flaws, Evan.
Yeah, it makes us all unique.
It does. We are very unique. So thank you guys so much, and best of luck to you. I'm so excited that y'all are doing this. I admire you so much, and don't know what the future is going to look like, but I think y'all are doing a good job trying to keep up.
Hey, this is why we do it. We get to be a little wiser each time with hearing other people's perspectives. So thanks so much, Lo.
And sometimes go through a therapy session together. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate y'all so much. Take care.
See ya.